Allison, this is Dr. Jester. I want to go over some issues on your first paper. Going back over to the instructions, I wanted to outline a couple of things for you real quick. So, the intent of this paper is to, in a paper of 1,000 to 1,250 words, how can a Christian benefit, how might they benefit from a study of other religions by addressing the following issues? Can we dialogue with other religious traditions as part of a calling to proclaim the gospel? Can we learn from other religious traditions? Can religious experiences or teachings in other faith be validated? How can we think critically about these encounters with members of other faith? And then support your reflections with examples and constructive thought. Okay, now, let's go to your paper really quick. Naturally, when I read a paper, one of the things that always grabs my attention is issues of style, which distracts me from reading content. But let's talk about your content first. So by and large, there's some good information here. But you haven't really evaluated Christian religious encounters with religious others. It seems to be that you're working on dealing with other Christian religions, other forms of faith, and that's not the intent of the paper. Here you've got an argument from the issue of the rapture. That's a Christian issue. You've got other things here about women in Scripture who shouldn't wear men's clothing, that dressing like a man is an issue. That's not going to be an issue outside of Christian circles by and large, except in Muslim context. Now, if you had specifically addressed Muslim context, that might be more relevant, but you haven't really done that. You've not really got into encountering other religious traditions. And again, we're not talking about Christianity here. We're talking about Islam, Buddhism, traditional religions. Can we learn from those religions? Can we dialogue? Is that part of our proclamation? Is it possible to learn from other religious traditions? And is it possible that we might actually find truth in other religions? Those are the questions you needed to be addressing here, and you really haven't done that. So those are some of the content issues. I always try to provide students with a guideline on the best practices in writing a paper, and I did for this class, adhering to GCU style as well as things to avoid. There are some of those fundamental things here that you did not do. First of all, your paper should always be double spaced, and you've got single spacing here. You do have title here. That's always very important. Some headings are needed. You've got your information that you're the author, the class. Those are all great. Your thesis statement, this is actually a good thesis statement. If you discuss this a little bit more, different types of religious traditions, but you seem to think and focus in this paper on issues of worldview. You've got a beginning and an end that focuses on that. And you can be religious and have a worldview as a Christian or as some other type of person, but you can also be a non-religious person and have a worldview. So worldview is not really the subject here. Is religious traditions, can we benefit from them? One of the other things I mentioned to avoid is the use of first person and second person. You've got a lot of that in this paper. Again, avoid that. But my major concern here, you've got several references to sources you cite. That's great. But you do not provide a reference page. There's no page down here. You've always got to have a reference page. Of greater concern for me, however, is this issue. So when we do a Turnitin report, these are the things that always come back. It gives us similarity. Yours is at 21%. What does similarity mean? It means information that looks like it came from somewhere else. And if you notice one of the very first things here, this highlighted area, one thing I always look for, have you properly cited your source? Well, you did up above here, but below you've got an entire quote indicated with no reference source. You borrowed that from the source, did not place it in quotations. So it's directly borrowed without giving proper credit to the source. How do you do that? I provided you guidelines in that paper I asked you to read and acknowledge. Anything of 3 or more words should be in parentheses, or I'm sorry, quotation marks. And you have to cite the source. You did that here for this up here. But this is not cited. You've got other things all down through here. And that really concerns me because ultimately what this indicates, by definition, this is plagiarism. And I'm fairly certain you did not mean to do that. But again, you've got to follow the instructions. Those instructions are when you borrow words from another source, you have to quote those words. When you're rewriting other sentences, some of this is rewritten, but you've left in significant portions of the original and did not cite any of that. And that concerns me. What you're going to have to do, and here you've got another indication of this. This is borrowed from a source without crediting that source. So what you're going to have to do is revise this. There's a 10% penalty for that. You're going to have to get the content right, talk about other religious traditions, not Christianity. You're going to have to get your style correct. Please do also let me know why you have these sentences in here that are clearly borrowed but not cited correctly. Okay? Those are some things you're going to have to do. I'll give you 5 days. That should be somewhere in the neighborhood. If you'll turn this in by next Thursday. Okay? And if you have any questions, let me know. I will be posting this in the individual forum for you, as well as a copy of what it says that you have borrowed without correctly citing. Okay? All right.